Hey everyone, Sergio with the Rideshare Guy. Welcome to another episode of Behind the Wheel. Today I'm joined by Fredric from Washington State. Actually, my favorite state for any rideshare driver to drive in, but I'm going to let him tell his side of the story. So, Frederick, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thanks for having me on, Sergio. Yeah, I'm from Eastern Washington State, the Spokane area, and I started doing Uber about 7 years ago, 8 years ago in 2017. And when I first started, I was actually living in Montana at the time, and I was in between deployments with the Navy. And well, I'm actually an active reservist, so I'm not full time. So when I'm not doing Navy stuff, I would do rideshare stuff on the side to keep the money coming in.
Well, thank you for the service.
Yeah, and then I also did Uber and Lyft or no, not Lyft, just Uber and DoorDash down in the Houston area for a few months while I was taking care of my dad when he was sick down there. I took an absence of work and went down there to help take care of my dad with my sister and did Uber down there and came back. And then I moved to transfer to Washington State with the Navy. And then that's where I've been living now for the last 4 years. So, and I just recently started doing Uber and Lyft again about a year ago. I
Okay.
took about a year and a half break because I was overseas on deployment at the time.
Okay. All right. So, would you consider yourself full-time or part-time driver?
Just part-time, like weekend warrior type.
Okay. All right. So you drove in a couple of different markets, right? Houston and now in your city, Spokane. I mean, I know a lot about the Washington market because I think it's the ideal rideshare market. But tell me a little bit about the differences between, Houston and Spokane. What is when you move from Houston to Washington State? What hit you right away? What was the difference?
The biggest difference was in the Houston area. Like I said, I was just doing it down there temporarily while I was taking care of my dad for a few months. But I found it very highly saturated in the Houston area. It was hard to get rides. And the rides that I did get were really low pricing. I
Mhm.
think I wasn't getting paid a whole lot.
Okay.
So I mostly started doing just Uber Eats while I was down there in Houston because the passengers, it just wasn't really much of a difference, honestly.
Okay.
So, and at the time I wasn't doing a lot of research and I didn't know what actually you were getting paid per mile or per minute, how they worked in Houston at the time. I
Mhm.
wasn't really paying attention to that. So, but I just know it wasn't very good pay
Did you have
compared
like
to.
a daily dollar goal when you were doing this? Like, I'm gonna make $100 today or $200 today or whatever.
Yeah, when I first started, my goal was like $100 a day. If I could make $100 a day, that was good enough, and I'll quit. If it took me 6 hours, at the time, 5 hours, whatever. Um, yeah, and then now my goal is about 200 to $250 a day, which usually I can meet pretty easily in here in Washington.
Okay. And how many hours does that take, you know?
Anywhere between 6 to 10 hours.
Okay.
If it's a busy day, I'll keep going. If it's busy, I'll do 10, 12 hours, and break $300. So usually here in Washington, if I do more than 8 to 10 hours, it's usually guaranteed that I break $300 a day.
Okay. And obviously you saw a difference in pricing, right? Because unlike other places in the country, Washington State is one of the few places that does not have upfront fares. So
Correct.
there's no hocus pocus algorithms going on there, you know what I mean? So
hmm
um and um do you know what the rates are in Washington State and Spokane? And I'm pretty sure you're taken into Seattle maybe once in a while or whatever because they have different rates. Do you know what the rates are?
Yeah, in Seattle, they actually on the first they just got a raise. So now, and if you live in the Seattle metro area, you're making $1.59 a mile, and a minute. I think it's something outrageous, like 68 cents a minute.
That's for X, right?
Yeah, just for X. I don't know the XL or the Comfort
Okay.
or Black. So I
Okay.
just looked up the pricing for X.
Okay. So I'm going to give you the rates because I just actually texted yesterday with Joshua Walter, who's a good friend from the Teamsters up in Seattle and Washington State area, who helped actually the Washington Drivers Union to bring Uber
Mhm.
and Lyft to the table. And they just got an increase for inflation. So here's the deal. So you were right on Seattle. $1.59 a mile, 68 cents a minute. By the way, people, multiply 68 cents times 60 minutes so you figure out. And minimum fare is $5.95. Okay.
Right.
The
Yeah.
pay rates for the rest of Washington, which where Fredric works in Spokane, is $1.34 a mile, 39 cents a minute, with a trip minimum of 345. Okay. So whoever's going to watch this, they're going to go, oh my God, that's like twice as much as our rates are. But then we don't have any rates because with upfront fares, there is no rate card, right? Um, so obviously, a lot of drivers that I talk to, they say, well, yeah, but Seattle is not what you think it is. There's too many drivers because of these good rates. We're not getting any trips, or Washington State drivers. What do you say to that?
Um, I haven't done Uber or Lyft in Seattle area,
Hmm.
so I don't know. I've only been a rider in the Seattle area,
Okay.
and it's always to get an Uber, it's less than 5 minutes.
Okay.
So that gives me a clue that it is fairly saturated when it only takes 2 minutes for an Uber to pick you up. They're literally right on the corner, every
Yeah.
corner of the city.
Yeah.
So, like I said, that kind of gives you a clue that there's a lot of drivers.
Okay.
I don't know how much ride demand there is in the city, but I'm assuming just from my experience of being in Seattle a lot, I think there's a lot of rider demand, because a
Yeah.
lot of people don't drive in Seattle. Um, but here in the eastern half in Spokane, I don't see a lot of oversaturation, even with the high pay.
Okay.
The only place where I do see the saturation would be at the airport queue.
Okay.
Uh, our airport isn't quite big enough to support the amount of drivers that go into the queue, even though there might be 16 drivers in the queue, 20 drivers. If you're not an elite Lyft elite or something, you're going to be waiting an hour
Yeah.
sometimes in the queue. Which I mean, in LA, you guys wait in the airport queue there for an hour or two, 2 hours. You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
there's just less flights, but there's also less drivers
Yeah.
here.
So the biggest difference is obviously the money. We're all doing it for the money, right? We're not doing this is not public service, you know what I mean? So it's our car, our time, our gas, our insurance, all that stuff. And it seems like the money is better, right? Because you came on the show actually on Show Me the Money a couple of weeks ago, and then you were pretty positive about rideshare, right? Because in this day and age, I get like 1,500 emails a week. Probably like 1,400 of them are complaining, right? And it didn't seem like you were a complainer. So maybe it's your Navy background, maybe it's just your, upbringing. I don't know. But w- what? So I'll ask you this. Give me two things you like about doing rideshare. It's in Washington, obviously, and two things you dislike, and then we'll go into what other benefits you have in Washington State as a rideshare driver.
One thing I like, of course, is the money.
Yeah,
It pays basically the same as my 9 to 5 job, just without the insurance benefits,
yeah,
basically.
yeah,
Um, and the second thing I like about it is the flexibility, and that's probably your number one answer there. The flexibility. I can work when I want, how long I want. If I need to take a break to do something, I can stop, go back. And if I don't want to work, I don't have to work.
yeah,
So those are the two things: the money and the flexibility.
yeah. And what do you dislike about it?
What I dislike about it the most is um, Uber and Lyft whoring us out for everything.
Yeah,
So, and having to take all the crappy rides that they try to give us. That's
yeah,
probably what I don't like about it. And probably the other thing I dislike about it is the secrets. Like everything with Uber and Lyft is the secret.
Yeah.
They don't want to give us any information on, like, for example, here, um, we don't have the upfront fares. So unless you're at least Uber Gold, you don't know where you're going with the person. You don't know how long the trip it is. All you know is how far away the person is.
Yeah. But you're getting paid well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, that.
What is your acceptance rate, by the way? Do you know?
Right now on Uber, I'm at 72%,
Okay.
and Lyft, I'm at like 90%.
Yeah. So it seems like you don't decline much because you don't have a reason to decline for the fact that you're getting paid properly.
Right. Yeah. Like even the short rides, are going to be $5, $6 minimum.
Yeah.
The minimum pay, like you said, is 375 or whatever it is. But I think the lowest one I've ever got was like 550, $6.
Yeah. Well, that's see,
Well,
this
actually,
is
no, I
yeah,
take
I
that
agree
back.
with
I had
you.
some rides that were like 495 that were just like half a mile rides. So
Yeah, I mean, so to Uber and Lyft, who watch everything we do, breaking news, Uber and Lyft. See the acceptance rate? Uber and Lyft, by the way, have a massive acceptance rate problem nationwide. Okay.
yeah.
And they go like, we don't know why. I'm like, no, no, we know why. You don't pay enough. You pay enough, you'll
Hmm.
have 70% on one app and 90% on the other app. You pay enough, people will accept. But if you send them $2 chips to put a human in the car, it's not going to work, right? So
Exactly.
that's the pay side. Do you take advantage of, do you know what other benefits you have in Washington State and Seattle?
Yeah, we have the paid family and medical leave, and we also have sick time, which the sick time is kind of a joke. Just because you need 40 hours to get 1 hour of sick time, you need 40 hours of with the passenger hours.
Yeah.
So, and I only have, I think, like 3 hours of sick time for the whole last year,
Okay.
because it actually takes more than you think to add up to 40 hours of with a passenger.
Yeah, but the PT
So,
and yeah.
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 But, my sick time is valued at $60.15 an hour. So, I mean, 2 hours, that's, a decent pay if I'm sick and I don't want to work, is cash in 2 hours and I get 120 bucks.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So,
you have anti-deactivation rights as well, or unjust deactivation rights, right? You can actually go
yeah,
through a
that's another
review.
one.
So to me, it seems like do you like being independent contractor or would you rather be an employee of Uber and Lyft?
Oh, I would much rather be the independent contractor.
Yeah.
So I don't
That's,
want to be considered an employee, because then they could tell you when to work and when you can't work,
yeah.
or they would, throttle you like they were doing in New York,
Yeah.
stuff like that. I don't want to have that happen. So I'd much rather just be independent contractor.
Yeah. That's what most people say when we do surveys that they want to stay independent contractor. But one thing is it seems like Washington State has this right, meaning you have the highest pay in the country, literally. And it's possible. That means it's possible, right? And you have about, I would say 70%, maybe 80% of a W-2 job's rights, you know? And you're
Yeah,
staying
that would be a
independent
fair.
contractor. So I think they have the
Yeah.
right model. I wonder, why do you think they don't do this all over the country?
I was about to ask you that the last week on the other show. Like, uh, I don't understand how other people can put up with it, other than just sending you 1,000 emails every week complaining about it.
No, no,
So,
I'm gonna hit that next. So it seemed like you were overall positive about doing rideshare, right? You had a positive view about rideshare. Now, if you put yourself in these other people's shoes, let's say an LA driver, right? Then we get like $2.80 trips for a couple of miles to put humans in our car, and we have a cap of $22 and things like that. Do you see why they complain? I mean, do you understand why?
yeah, I completely see it all. I completely see it, and I don't know why they do it. I don't know why they do it if they're, for $2, $3 a ride. You're not making any money for those trips. So I just it just boggles my mind why they continue to do it. If they need the money that bad for the little bit of money they're maybe clearing, I'm not sure, but I can understand why they're upset, but they're
Yeah,
complaining to the wrong people is the problem.
yeah,
So complaining to you, it's on your radar, but they need to be complaining to their local government is what they need to be complaining to. The people that actually make the laws that regulate the pay.
yeah. Well, I think they did that right in Seattle, right? And Washington. It started in Seattle and then it just went throughout,
Yeah.
the state. And, with the help of a union, actual union, right? Teamsters, and they got the ear of the local city council, and then it just started a small fire and then it spread through the state. Um, so if you were to, let's say, drive in another city and you see the disaster rates that Uber and Lyft are offering, you wouldn't do rideshare, would you?
Probably not. No.
Even with the
So I would, like I
flexibility
said,
and
I
the
have a 9 to 5 right now.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
probably not.
yeah. How long do you think you're going to keep doing rideshare? I mean, you kind of seems like you're doing it like a side hustle anyway. It's not like your main gig. Do you have a regular job?
Yeah, my regular job is I work for construction. Uh, I used to drive concrete truck, and
Uh-huh.
now I'm doing concrete testing.
Okay.
So
All right. But you're saying that your Uber pay is almost equal to what you're making at your W-2.
yeah, after my fuel expenses, I'm on a good day I can get $34 an hour plus.
Okay.
I'm averaging about 25, $26 an hour
Okay.
after my fuel expense.
After your
That's
expense.
after my fuel expense.
Yeah.
So
What kind of car do you drive, by the way?
I have a 22 Ford Explorer.
Not the most efficient car, but you know, but
Yeah, I can get 25, 26 miles to the gallon with that.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, I mean, I think people need to hear about Washington State because and understand that it's doable. There is a model out there, but I don't think Uber and Lyft will go for that all over the country.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
think that's
David
going to happen.
Rich, their country Shelby wouldn't. They're trying to probably keep this a secret.
No, no, it's not a secret, but I think what they want to do is they don't want to mess with it whatsoever, because the possibility is there that with a strong driver community, right, and with the backing of the union, that you can bring these people to the table, and they did come to the table, and look where we are, right? I want to
Mhm.
also, ask you a couple other things about human nature in general, actually. So, because you're in the Navy, you're a Navy Reserve, you've been probably all over the world, I'm assuming. So, how good um, do you think we have it in this country versus some other places? And we keep to still complain though, but how good do you think we have it?
Well, once you spend 6, 7 months in the Middle East, and you realize how good we have it here, and people over there, you know they're picking up scrap food and eating it, and to them that's a blessing.
Yeah,
You know, so and they have when I was in the Middle East, a couple of the countries I was in Bahrain is one of them, a small country by Saudi Arabia, and they had Uber there.
yeah,
Um, and it was dirt cheap. I mean, I can't imagine the drivers were making much because a ride across town that would have cost probably at least 25, $30 here was like, $10.
wow,
So I can imagine the drivers were not making anything. And it's weird because Bahrain is one of the richest countries in the world as far as the value of dollar,
yeah,
along with Kuwait.
yeah,
Um, But yeah, other places that I've been, we complain about a lot of petty stuff, and you know, and like, oh, I had a driver that had dirty shoes on, I got my floor mat dirty,
yeah,
like, you know, over there, nobody wears shoes, so,
yeah,
so there are people with bare feet in your car, so yeah, we have it amazingly good here, and um, it does make you humble when you're here and realize how the rest of the people in the world live. you realize how good we actually have it, and the things we complain about are actually pretty petty.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. Completely agree with
Mm.
you. And we have a few more minutes remaining, so I'm going to ask you. It doesn't have to be rideshare advice, but to our audience, as you watch us, so what our audience is 99% drivers, right?
Hmm.
Um, and give him some advice, like I mean, other than moving to Spokane to oversaturate your market.
Yeah, you don't have to move here. You can stay where you are. We have enough drivers up here.
Yeah. But what would your advice be to a rideshare driver?
Just one of the models that I follow is if you're gonna do a job, big or small, do it right or not at all. So that's one thing I think about. Even if you're complaining that you're not making enough money, do the job well, because it can tend to be a vicious cycle. Is you're complaining about shitty pay, so you provide shitty service, but then you get shitty pay because you're providing shitty service, as far as your tips. And I don't know how much of a difference it makes. I think it makes a little bit of difference with me providing good service, being friendly. A clean car is probably the number one tip I tell a lot of people that I talk to on about Uber and Lyft is just make sure your car's clean. And I know a lot of the drivers on your channel and some of the other channels that I watch, the drivers don't like me because I
Or-
tend to play devil's advocate a little bit, with the comments, and they'll say, "Oh, I'm not cleaning my car for the crappy pay."
Yeah,
Well, clean your car. It takes 15, 20 minutes to vacuum your car, wipe it off with some Armor All. I mean, if you don't have 15, 20 minutes to make sure your car is presentable, you shouldn't be doing it, in
yeah.
my opinion. So
No,
that's probably the biggest thing.
well, so first of all, you know, I appreciate your time, but um, look, to me, what you said, it hits the nail in the head. Okay. If you're gonna do something, do it right. Okay. Number one, not everything is about pay, although I understand their pain. I feel it, right? To me, half-assing something is shouldn't be done that way, right? And because the writer knows you, writer doesn't know the CEO of Uber, writer doesn't know anybody. I mean, they know you, right? And you're representing yourself. Forget Uber, forget Lyft, right? And service is important. It's a service industry. I mean, it's what else is there? We're picking people up, dropping off, but we're servicing people. So, no, I agree with you there 100% that a lot of drivers, don't take care of the basic stuff to enjoy what they're doing. And I think their attitude is bad. I mean, to me, attitude is everything. It's just you got to have a decent attitude about what you're doing. And it seems like you do have a decent attitude. And it seems like you like what you're doing. And there's nothing wrong with liking what you're doing, man. I know you will get some heat on this. You'll get some heat in the comments, but so finish us off. Give us a couple of minutes of whatever is in your mind, and I'll give you the floor.
Okay. Um, where do I start?
Whatever you want.
Basically, another thing that I really try to discourage other drivers, because I chatted with some drivers at the airport queue when I'm trying to kill time. I talk to them and ask them how things are doing, and
Yeah.
they same thing. They complain about everything, and even though up here we're getting paid well, they're still complaining about something. And like I said, I can understand that. But one thing you also can't do is you can't complain to your riders. Um, if you're going to complain, yeah, complain to your friends, complain to other drivers, but don't complain to the riders being about not getting good pay. It makes because I know a lot of drivers on other chat rooms and channels, they say, "Oh, I complain to my passengers all the time about my low pay and us this and that." Well, that kind of makes an awkward situation, right? If you're paying for a service and then the person providing the service is complaining about it, I'm a writer a lot because I travel a lot. Like I think I told you before, my base that I was attached to is down there in Port Hueneme by
Yeah.
Oxnard. So whenever I'm there, I use Uber and Lyft a lot, and all over the country in the world I've used Uber. And the last thing you want to do is have a driver complain to you because it just makes it awkward.
Yep.
Like, yeah, I don't want to tip this guy. He's complaining all the time. He shouldn't even be doing it. So a clean car, don't complain, even if the rider is doing something stupid or being a jerk. Just be professional, end the ride, and don't antagonize anything. Um, yeah, that's about it. So,
Mhm. No, I agree. Those are the basic rules of engagement, man. Enjoy what you're doing, and if it's so bad, don't do it. You don't need to. One thing the drivers don't understand is they have no control in this business. They just don't have control. Maybe that's what they complain about, truly, but then it just falls into other aspects of their lives. But you have no control. Uber and Lyft are in control. As much as you think you have freedom and flexibility and this and that, no, the boss is the app, and but you got to make the best of it, like Fredric does. Although he's lucky, I mean, it helps to be in
mhm.
the highest paid state in the country. That helps. But so anyway, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you for your service. Be safe out there. Keep doing what you're doing, and we'll see you.
All right, thanks, Sergio. Have a good night.
Thanks for watching this episode of Behind the Wheel on the Rideshare Guy. We've been doing these interviews for the past 6 months with very successful drivers from different cities around the nation. Click here for another episode. Make sure you subscribe and turn on all notifications for other episodes of Behind the Wheel as well as amazing content on our channel.